age. Now, I call upon our member secretary, Dr. Tiba, to submit the minutes of the previous internal meeting. Dr. Tiba, please.
Thank you, sir. Now I'd like to present the report on our previous internal meet, 18th internal meet. The 18th internal meeting of the Scientific Society of Arupadavidu Medical College, scheduled as a scientific session on AVMC COVID Management Session 2, was conducted on 23/6/2021 at 2:15 p.m. through Cisco WebEx platform. The program commenced with a welcome address by President Scientific, Dr. P. Uday Kumar sir, followed by the report on the previous meeting by Dr. S. Deepa, Member Secretary Scientific. Dr. P.F. Kotur, Dean AVMC, presided over and addressed the audience regarding the preparedness for the third wave of COVID-19. Also, he emphasized that third wave can be prevented by COVID-appropriate behavior. Dr. V. N. Mahalakshmi, Dean Health Professionals Education, introduced the session and its importance to acquire knowledge to manage the sequelae of this unknown disease. Dr. V. Jagannathan from Department of Pediatrics presented the management of COVID-19 in pediatric age group. Dr. A. Tumja from Department of Pediatrics enlightened the audience on the facts about COVID vaccination. An elaborate presentation on mucormycosis was done by Dr. Jayita Podwal, HOD, Department of ENT. The effects and presentation on COVID sequelae was highlighted by Dr. S. Madanraj, Professor, Department of Respiratory Medicine. The scientific session was interactive, with queries from audience being addressed, with the knowledge being shared. The program ended with a vote of thanks. Thank you. Today we are into a next scientific session. This is actually a need of the hour session because advanced maternal age through the looking glass. The topic comments because since we had a COVID pandemic, we used to have routinely case reports and other things. So I cannot give a call for abstracts for case reports because all the cases were COVID cases for the past 3 months. So we thought we'll go into a very dynamic topic of the day of the hour nowadays. So we thought of taking this topic as advanced maternal age. Advanced maternal age with we have a women's empowerment cell here, and for presenting about the social perspective, and other things will be dealt by the obstetricians and the neonatologists today. And I feel pride to call our chairperson today, Dr. Pushpa Kotur. She is on the both the sides, okay, through the looking glass. She is on the both sides of the glass, this side and that side, both the social perspective and the doctor's perspective. So we have taken her as the chairperson. Hope she will give a end result as a thing. And I'll give the screen to Dr. Pushpa Kotur, Professor OG and President Women's Empowerment Cell AVMC, to preside this scientific session. Over to you, ma'am, please.
Thank you, Deepa. Let me thank first Scientific Society for giving me this opportunity. So good afternoon, everybody. As Deepa told, I am obstetrician as well as I am promoter of women empowerment. So what is the consequences of women empowerment? I will tell you. Advanced pregnancy at advanced age means those who become mother for the first time or maybe subsequently also second time, third time after age of 35 years. That's how we obstetricians, we define that. And in last decade or two, the incidence is going up. It was very low in the beginning of 1990 and all, but slowly it increased, even in India. In Western countries, from 1970 onwards, 8 times it increased. So why this advanced maternal age is common nowadays? Of course, it depends upon the status of the person and their from which area they are coming, their educational oriented or career oriented perspective, all those things come into view. Especially in India, most of the women are staying in rural area. They don't follow advice of the obstetrician, even though we are working hard on it. They are unaware about the good contraceptive measures, and they fail to practice these measures. And maybe some of the families in some of the families, they want male child. So they will go on producing female child and until they get male child. So that is one of the factor in our rural area for this advanced age. But if we see our women are more and more, they are empowering, they are more educated, they are more career oriented. And because of all this, what is happening? They have access to modern contraceptive methods also, so that they can achieve better fertility. So because of all, they go on postponing their pregnancy, and maybe sometimes they have to seek help of the IVF centers. So like that, they go on in in their career more in depth, but at the same time their obstetric career will go down. So today on this topic, we have eminent speakers from obstetric department and from physiology department, Dr. Lakshmi Jatia, who has now changed the designation as secretary of not only Women Empowerment Cell, she has taken over as a secretary of even Scientific Society. So he is the first speaker. I will introduce all speakers now only, so that there will be continuity in the flow of topic. There won't be any break in the continuity. So Lakshmi Jatia is the first speaker. She's HOD of physiology. And one more thing, I was wondering how Lakshmi Jatia is talking about this particular topic, social aspects. I was thinking community medicine people will talk about it. Then I thought that because of women empowerment, these all problems started, and Lakshmi is the right person who can enlighten about these problems. Then we have Dr. Shashikala, HOD of Obstetrics and Gynecology. She's my colleague, very good, experienced a teacher, clinician, and academician. She is postgraduate as well as undergraduate teacher, almost maybe about more than 3.5 decades. Then Dr. Deepa. Dr. Deepa is young obstetrician who is very enthusiastic and academician. She's also my colleague, professor of obstetrics and gynecology. And I'm sure both of them, they will definitely look into this obstetric perspective of advanced maternal age and enlighten us. Dr. Tumuja, she is professor of pediatrics. She's also a young professor, enthusiastic, very good pediatrician. And she will talk about neonatological problems in advanced maternal age. So over to you, Dr. Lakshmi.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for that introduction. I was wondering, you called everybody as young, dynamic, and you left me out. Don't go by the color of my hair, ma'am.
You are Secretary of Women Empowerment. So you are empowered women. That's what I said, that how Lakshmi came here in the picture, because she's an empowered woman.
Thank you, ma'am. So I am the opening batswoman today for today's this topic on delayed motherhood. I hope my slide is visible to you all.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Sometimes there is lag time. Just wait for a minute.
No. Again, I will try, ma'am. No problem.
Lakshmi.
Is it visible now?
I consider myself as young, so you are definitely younger than me.
Okay, ma'am. Is it visible now?
Yeah,
Okay,
now
fine.
it is visible. Okay,
ma'am. Okay, thank you all. My pranams and greetings to everyone. in the forum. There is a slight role reversal today. Deepa is going to talk on the physiological aspect, and I'm today as member secretary of Women Empowerment Cell. I'll be talking about the social perspective of delayed motherhood, its reasons and determinants. Before we start with this talk, I would like you all to kindly log on to www.menti.com for a short survey kind of a thing. So kindly log on to www.menti.com and the code would be 27642594. Just kindly hold on for a minute.
Can you repeat the code, madam?
Just 1 minute, ma'am. The code is 27642594. 27642594. Yeah, is it visible?
Yes.
Yeah, so what we have seen is, like all of you have voted, thank you for your voting. So just 1 minute. So this is what we have seen. It is showing, it's gone again. So what we saw was the more number of people, just 1 sec. So about 30, many people have, like most of the responses have come between 20 to 25. And now again, some more voting is going on. So what we are seeing is all the three categories, there are equal numbers. So is it should be visible now?
Yes. Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay, fine. So what we are seeing is almost all the categories, everybody has voted equally. So this is also nice. So about 30 also many people are there. Right. So I'll go to, for those people who have voted for above 30, just 1 minute, I would share another one. So what was the reason for postponing motherhood for those who have opted for being mother or mom for the first time for in the age group of 30 and above? What could be your reason? What was your reason exactly? Late marriage, PG studies. Late marriage, PG studies. Any more responses? So I think majority of the responses would fall in this category only: PG studies, late marriage, yeah, infertility, career. Yeah. Any more responses? Okay, I think that's all. So most of the responses, like we are also noticing that delayed motherhood is because of majority of the reasons people have already pointed out for postponing motherhood. So here, now I'll come to my presentation. Yeah, I think it's visible now. Yeah, okay. So now I come to the topic proper. So what is the best child-bearing age? So fertility, as we all know, that fertility naturally declines in women as women age and makes it harder for women to conceive. And experts say that the best time to get pregnant is between late 20s and early 30s. This time or age range is associated with best outcome for both mother and the baby. We all know that women are born with all the ovaries she's going to ever have, about 2 million of them. And the number of ovaries gradually decline with age. And when the woman is around 37 years old, she's left with 25 ovaries. And by the age of 51, she has only 1,000 ovaries. That might sound a lot of ovaries. But what about the quality of the ovaries? As we see in this picture, that the quality of ovaries also decline with passing years. Now, not only the maternal age, but the paternal or the father's age also matters. Older men, as compared to young ones, are more likely to father children who have either schizophrenia or autism or both. This is all because of random mutations that become more numerous with the advancing paternal age. And that is why I'm saying advancing age or age matters not only for women, but for women also, for men also, they have a best childbearing age. Now, this phenomenon that we are noticing, delayed parenthood, this is not only common in India, but it has been witnessed in developing countries, which Madam has already told. So most of us are quizzed, like, when are you going to have kids? Most young couples, they are not prepared for that moment when their family members, colleagues, and friends begin to bombard them with this question. The pressure to start a family is overwhelming. And for many millennial couples who have spent the last decade focusing on this, on their career, is a very complex question to answer. So delayed parenthood is a universal phenomenon. Starting a family later in life could pose greater risk for pregnancy complications. Babies born to elderly moms are more likely to have chromosomal anomalies like Down syndrome, and also there is higher risk of pregnancy loss by miscarriage or stillbirth. That may be because of the mother's pre-existing medical condition or fetal chromosomal anomalies. There is also greater incidence of medically induced deliveries and cesarean sections that has been commonly seen in primaries. And also age not only is associated with high risk pregnancy complications, but it is also influencing or affecting the outcome of both mother and the baby. So with the advancing age, more and more women are seeking the help of doctors for assisted reproductive techniques, which Madam already told. And also there is high level of anxiety and Also, there is increase in time spent to achieve a successful pregnancy. Like for women who are in the older age group, they may be spending around 24 months to achieve a successful pregnancy, as compared to younger women who may be spending only less than 3 months to achieve a successful pregnancy. So why, in spite of all this, are more women becoming pregnant at a later age? The reasons are many and varied. The determinants of this change in reproductive pattern is associated with social, cultural, and economic factors. And also, this change has been occurring in our society in the last quarter of 20th century. And Madam rightly pointed out that the other determinant which is associated with delayed motherhood is the availability of effective contraceptive options or the methods which are available, which provides a stepping stone for women, for greater women emancipation, that is freedom, where women can choose between motherhood and other activities. The other determinant, which is rightly told by Madam, is the availability or technological breakthroughs like IVF and also the so-called mother machine industry. And the liberal laws, the laws now allow surrogacy or the wombs on rent or ova or the ovum donors for women who can afford it. So I would like to say that another important thing which is becoming very popular among young, dynamic, aspiring women with demanding jobs is freezing of their ovas early in their reproductive phase. And one of the example, like one of the celebrity, the former Miss World, Miss Diana Haddons, was the celebrity who opted for this technique very early. She was probably the first one to opt for this technique. And many sportswomen like badminton player, Jwala Gutta and others are also they have opted for this technique. And finally, I would say that if a woman wants to have a baby, either alone or with a partner, age is not a barrier because of the availability of these techniques. And even if a woman is postmenopausal and clocking 60 to 70 years, if she wants to have a baby, she can have a baby. And in the US, this category of women is inelegantly called as moneyed older moms. I repeat again, moneyed older moms. Some of the other determinants which are responsible for this delayed motherhood are low gender equity, changing partnership behavior. Like we don't want to get married, we want to give a trial, we believe in live-in relationship. So this is again another change in partnership behavior. Limiting housing availability, this may be true for some. And traditionally women were considered to be full-time homemakers. Their responsibilities were to take care of their families and their children. They did not have any say or any part to play in the family earnings. Over the years, the role of women have changed. They are educated, they are marrying at a later age, and they are working outside, shouldering the responsibility, equal responsibility with their husbands. The reason for delayed motherhood revolve around the E component. What is that E component? E component is education, employment, earning, and empowerment. These are the reasons which are rightly pointed out by my colleagues who have taken part in the voting, as well as by Dr. Pushpa Kotur Madam, President of Women Empowerment Cell. Why increasing education might lead to childbearing delay? One of the most important reasons for this is balancing student and mother roles. Both are time intensive, making it difficult to take both the roles simultaneously. Hence, women who desire to have high educational attainment levels are likely to postpone motherhood. Further, better educated women are likely to pursue careers that progressively entail more responsibility, higher remuneration, greater authority, and autonomy. Such women are delaying motherhood either to gain professional stability, to gain experience for further gains, or maybe their careers are too time consuming. And this is the statistics that I found out, not in a medical journal. So as per this Pew Research Center, a non-partisan fact tank that makes public aware about the changes which are taking place in various issues, attitudes and trends that shape the entire world. So they, and also the International Center for Research on Women, this is also based in Washington, they have pointed out that more and more highly educated women, master's degree, even here we can see even in India, so there are more and more women with higher degrees are opting for marriage, late marriage, and delayed motherhood. And also, those women who want to make a mark in their profession are opting for children either late in their career or they do not want to have a baby at all. So this is another changing trend that has been coming up in the society. It's all a male-dominant world. More and more women work in male-dominated sectors like politics, legal system, army, engineering, that are not as understanding and supportive of motherhood. They are not supportive and understood. They are not understanding about the motherhood. And most of the organizations also lack childcare facilities. There are lower benefit levels and also poor workplace policies that might signal to the woman that you cannot be both a wage earner and a mother at the same time. So this is another reason for women postponing motherhood. And we also know that the percentage of women taking up part-time jobs, maybe because of their family circumstances, is also more as compared to part-time jobs which are taken up by the men. And this is being viewed as being incompetency to a larger extent, and also this situation is exploited by their employers. They even lose, as a result of this post motherhood, these women also lose trust in the company, and they also lose their position, as a result of which mothers are not willing, or they deter to take this additional responsibility. And some of the women have also seen their colleagues suffering. So this is all the more reason they are afraid to take up this additional responsibility. Now we come to another important aspect. In spite of women performing exceptionally well in almost all the spheres of activities, gender inequality is a crucial reality in India. And women are facing the problem of gender inequality and discrimination at home and workplace. Unsupportive family and workplace policies is the main reason for women not able to balance work and family life. This is yet another important reason for women to shift to delayed motherhood. Now, these slides speak for it, for the various cultural and values shifts, which have led towards more people not feeling ready to have a baby yet. The present day woman yearns for social progress, freedom, education, empowerment. But at the same time, she is burdened with the tag of super mom, juggling between work and home. Delayed motherhood. There are so many other reasons also, like the economic or housing uncertainty, employment, temporary work, or unstable jobs, as a result of which their economic status has not reached a level where they would like it to be. So that is another important reason. So I would like to share this slide. It was very surprising for me. This I took it from Aditya Birla. They sell those various policies. In that, I was surprised to see that the cost of raising a child is enormous. It is running in crores, and these figures are like, it is a summative figure right from conception till the child is on his own, independently earning. So these figures, and if you see in 2042 with inflation, the figures are going to really high. And there are other reasons also, which are medical reasons, which is a genuine reason. The mother may be suffering, having some cancer or something, or maybe she's on some chemo for which she's delaying motherhood. There are unstable or they want to establish a relationship, or some of the women, surprising, those who are into stable relationship also, they are taking their time and they are concentrating more on their career. Divorce and living together before marriage. Personal, maybe they did not find a suitable partner, or it was not the right time to get married before. And as I've already told you, majority, and some of them do not want to be a mother at all. And this is another one. The obstacles faced by women post-maternity: demoted, salary cut, lack of support from family, access to childcare, unable to work for long periods, night shifts, not provided challenging work, unstable to satisfactorily manage office responsibilities, and her health issues. Now, we will come to another important aspect which should have rather helped women. But what is happening to this? Our government of India has proposed this maternity MBA, or the maternity benefit law, or the Act of 1961, which was amended again in 2017 and effective as of 1st April 2017. And the important changes that have taken place is the paid maternity leave was increased from 12 weeks to 26 weeks. And on expiry of this, and this was applicable for women having up to 2 kids, after that, she will get only 12 weeks of leave. And after beyond the expiry of this paid maternity leave, she's also entitled for work from home, if she is eligible, and if the employer desires, can give her this work from home. And also the right for women who are opting for adoption or commissioning mothers, adopting mothers and commissioning mothers. So you will be wondering, what is that commissioning mother? Adopting mother, we all know. What is commissioning mother? Commissioning mother is the one who is giving her over, and she's not bearing that baby, but she's adopting for surrogacy. So she's the commissioning mother. As soon as she gets the baby, she's entitled for 12 weeks of leave. And also, establishments having 50 or more employees are bound to have crèche facility at their workplace, which is made mandatory from 1st July 2017. In spite of it all, like, we are probably third in the world to have this kind of a liberal or very seemingly generous maternity benefit laws. And we should have actually encouraged motherhood benefits merely 1% of women. Merely benefits, I repeat again, it merely benefits 1% of women. And it's a clear example of phantom legislation. So it is, the law has been enacted just for the sake of a law which has been passed, which do not have, and most probably cannot have the desired effect. Now, some good news. Contrary to the belief, older women or women who are opting for being a mother at an older age have some or few reasons to cheer. What are those reasons? So pregnancy at an older age boosts your brain power and makes mentally sharper and brings in much needed wisdom and patience. Children born to older parents achieve higher levels of education. And also, there is lower risk of uterine cancer in women who are becoming pregnant for the first time at 40. It is the last baby, 40 and beyond, they are having lower risk of uterine cancer. And also, another good news, the women who are opting for motherhood at a later age, they live longer. So I summarize, I come to the end of my topic. Delaying motherhood could improve women educational and economic opportunities, their health and health of their future and properly planned children. To achieve this, it is crucial to promote and respect women's right to decide who and when to marry and when to have children, and promote relationships free of gender-based violence. Age is just one factor that should go into her decision to get pregnant. Need to consider her emotional and financial readiness to start a family. That timing is unique for each woman. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for a patient hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshmi, for enlightening all of us about what is the right age of marriage and why these advanced age pregnancies are more common because of this availability of modern techniques and our changing socio-cultural status, then about more expectations from mothers to become a super mom as well as at workplace to as a superwoman in this male-dominated society. So thank you very much. And let us now go to next speaker, Dr. Sasikala. She will enlighten us about the obstetric aspect of this advanced.
Shall I finish?
Sorry. Before that, I will request Deepa to enlighten us about physiological aspects of this particular topic.
Thank you, ma'am, for introducing me and for this session. Actually, Dr. Lakshmi Jatia has single-handedly accepted the challenge for social perspective, and it's very difficult for me to start with because she has substantiated why it is needed. A woman's age has to be considered. We have to give women for her freedom and other things Madam have explained. It has become tough for all three of us, myself, Shashikala Madam and Tumja Madam, because Madam has single-handedly, she is on the other side of the tie, but everything where she has substantiated very nicely. Thank you, ma'am. But now let me put forth the, everyone will be wondering what I am there to speak about physiological aspects because Madam herself being HOD physiology, where I am here to debate with her related to the physiological perspective with the advancing age. Let me start with a small intro. Actually, why I took up the physiological aspect, because it is not advanced maternal age which I want to talk. I wanted to talk about advanced age of the woman. They plan to become pregnant. It's not the advanced maternal age, advanced age of the woman who plan to become pregnant. So we have this problem. Suppose I get a patient of 37 years female. She comes to me with 3 years of infertility. 3 years of infertility is not a very difficult thing, but the problem here is she is 37 years. She got married at 33 years because she wanted to do her finish her PhD and then she wanted to become. Good, she has become a doctorate, but it's difficult for me at 37 years to start with the treatment. In everything I have to do in hurry, do the induction or IUI or this, do evaluation, everything. And finally, I have to refer her to her IVF specialist. Once I refer her to her IVF specialist, there they will tell that you have come very late. It is already you are 38 years or 39 years. So let me start with this scenario which we are into, and I'll share my screen. Is my screen visible, ma'am?
Visible.
Okay.
Put it in slideshow, ma'am.
Yeah. So the biological clock is reset because of this advanced age of the female. So as we all know, the reproductive potential decline with age in women. This is my first slide and this will be my last slide also. We all know reproductive potential decline with age in women. I would like to substantiate how it declines, where it declines, why it declines and when it declines. Despite the age-later decline in the reproductive potential in the woman age, childbearing at the advanced reproductive age has become increasingly common. Right now, there is increased birth rates in the older women. There are many statistics available in the United States. I couldn't get much statistics in India, but I could get statistics from the IVF centers where they have presented, and they have attributed that there is a decline in the fertility rate as the age advances, even when they approach the IVF center. Increased birth rates in the older women is also due to the delay in the childbearing with improved educational and career opportunities. So coming to the problem statement, the women who seek pregnancy at an advanced age, they are more likely to experience difficulty achieving, maintaining the pregnancy and have a healthy child. The problem is...
1 minute. You are not changing the slide?
Okay, ma'am, I'll stop sharing.
No, you are not changing. With only first slide you are going to talk? Because the slide is not getting changed.
My share is not, my slide is not visible, ma'am.
It was visible, but only first slide was visible.
Okay, ma'am.
So they were not getting changed. There is some background noise, isn't it?
1 minute, ma'am. My slide is visible, ma'am.
Visible.
Now it is visible. You put it on slide share mode. The slideshow mode. Is it because of internet problem or what?
No, ma'am.
WebEx is creating some problem nowadays.
Yeah, ma'am. Triple F also we had problem.
Same.
My PowerPoint
It is visible.
Okay.
Yeah. Just put it on slideshow. Your problem statement.
So between 31 to 35 years, which is the common age nowadays for the women entrepreneurs, the spontaneous pregnancy rate declines sharply. From 35 to 39 years, 1/3 of these women have difficulty in achieving the pregnancy. Between 40 to 45 years, half of these women has the inability to conceive. So coming to age and the reproductive outcome. So the four main factors are decline in the oocyte number and decreasing in the oocyte quality. Not only the number it is also the quality. And due to abnormal neuroendocrine axis which happens and uterine receptivity and aging. All these four things put together, it finally results in the problem which I have mentioned earlier. Let us see each of these. So coming to declining oocyte number, what are the facts? The oocyte number is prefixed in the uterine life. There is no production. There is no production during the reproductive life compared to the males. It only keep on declining. When you see out of the millions of oocytes which are formed, less than 0.1% of the oocyte ovulates. All the remaining degenerate. They are not utilized for this reproduction. And after 35 years, the rate of decline is very much higher and it declines exponentially. That is the reason. So this picture will give us a nice idea. This is about the intrauterine. If you see the reproduction, the oocyte development and other things in the intrauterine life itself, the oogenesis begins. During the early embryological life itself, the meiosis happens and the oogenesis happens. And at 20 weeks, there is a maximum amount of oogonia which is present. That is 5
Deepa,
5 to 6. Hello, ma'am.
Make it slideshow. So that
okay.
Down below. Not there.
Is it okay, ma'am?
It's okay.
Okay. So there is 5 to 6 million at the 20 weeks of gestation in the intrauterine gestation itself. 80% of that is lost by birth, and at birth, as I have mentioned, only little bit when compared to the 5 to 6 million, we have only 20% of the oocytes which are formed will be there. And at puberty, it became 5 million, and at around 35 years, it becomes 25,000. And you cannot consider that we have 25,000 after 35 years. I will explain you about it in the quality of the oocytes, how it declines. So coming to the decreased oocyte quality, the oocyte quality deteriorates with the advancing age. And also they are so much sensitive to the effect of mutations which happens. That is why you get more of aneuploid embryos in the advanced age. We get more of miscarriages and aneuploid embryos. Even when during the IVF also, when they do embryo transfer, before doing embryo transfer, when they get the embryo, they see more of aneuploid embryos in the women with advanced age. And there is abnormal meiotic spindle in the oocytes also. That is also observed in women of advanced age. And oocyte degeneration also happens. So this is what happens. The oocyte number declines, and also it declines exponentially after some time. After the 30 years, the decrease is more exponential, and the quality is also not. It is also a proportion of the poor quality oocytes also increases. That is why these women at around how we as an infertility specialist, how we can understand that they are going for more of poor quality oocytes, that because of premature LH surge and other things, they will have the shorter cycles, and it will be irregular cycles also. They will have shorter cycles, and that also indicates, that is the end of fertility, and that is a poor quality oocytes. So coming to age and the reproductive neuroendocrine system, there is elevated LH as age advances. That also causes deleterious effect on the developing oocyte. As I already mentioned, there will be early maturation of these oocytes. The oocytes have to be mature enough. Everything should happen in a proper time. So usually when we do follicular study in patients with advanced age, they will develop the oocyte faster after doing ovulation induction, and it will be the maturation will be earlier. That is due to elevated LH. That is called as premature LH surge, we used to call it as. And that cycle, they may not conceive. There is least chance for conception in that cycle when they mature earlier and ovulate also earlier. That is why in these patients, even though there will be ovulation, the conception will be less. The reason for this is because of this only early maturation of the oocyte, and that oocyte is not competent enough to have a proper embryo. So when we see outside, it will be a menstrual cycle will be shorter. And also because of there is an increased LH, there will be supraphysiological androgen production. We need a microestrogenic environment in that ovary for proper follicular development. Because there is increased androgen production due to increased LH, there is follicles get atretic. And there coming to GnRH, it is not only with the ovary, even the GnRH pulsatile secretion is also abnormal. That has been reported in many studies when in patients with advancing age. So coming to uterus. So recently we had a uterine transplantation. We have seen very old women, 70 years, 60 years, they are able to conceive and they are able to reproduce. But still that is not so with every woman. Uterus also plays a very important role because embryo implantation happens in the uterus. So uterus is a nidus for the developing embryo. If with the aging, there is a decreased uterine receptivity that is measured by uterine receptivity index. They have identified there is a decreased uterine receptivity both by hormonal and the vascular values, and that is also one reason why aging causes a decrease in the fertility in these women. And luteal phase deficiency is also very common in the advanced age group. So coming to donor oocyte model, what is this donor oocyte model? Because the patients are advancing age, because their oocytes are not competent enough to form an embryo, they go for a donor oocyte. So in this donor oocyte model, after the donated oocyte, they will keep the embryo in this mothers. And this mother, the embryo will develop in the uterus of these mothers with advanced age. And they have identified that compared to this the younger counterparts, the advanced age women, there is more chance for implantation failure. There is less pregnancy rate as per few studies. But some studies still there is not much difference between the donor oocyte, this one, and other reasons can also be underestimated, because the estrogen has to be adequate, because already I have explained in the neuroendocrine also, the estrogen is also not adequate. There is a androgenic environment that also can also result in the decreased fertility even in a donor oocyte model. So coming to impact of advanced age on IVF, fewer oocytes are available for retrieval. That is because they are the poor responders. Because the oocyte pool is less, even if you give so much of gonadotropin doses, that is not adequate for these people, and they don't respond for our gonadotropins. So we may need to give so much of, and sometimes we have to cancel the cycle also in IVF. And hence we have to opt for donor oocytes. That will be the ultimate thing, and this results in low fertility outcome also. And other thing is, surprisingly, nowadays we are doing AMH in some patients. Even at 30 years, their AMH is less. To be frank, the AMH is an indicator of ovarian reserve in a female. If the AMH is less than 3, that indicates that she is going for diminishing ovarian reserve. If it is less than 2, it is becoming poor ovarian reserve for these women. So nowadays, when we do AMH, I have seen in the past 2 or 3 years, the reason is not known, whether it is even without advanced age also, some patients who are around 30 years coming with infertility, their AMH is very low, and I have to refer them for IVF center for donor oocyte. Another thing is, age is a single most prognostic factor in IVF. Nowadays, in IVF centers, they are asking for Aadhaar card, to be frank, because they want to write the patient's age properly. Because at 30 years, the success is this much. At 32 years, the success is this much. At 35 years, the success is this much. They counsel it to the patients. This is going to be your success. That is why whenever we are referring a patient for IVF, we consider very important thing as the age. We don't refer a patient at advanced age to an IVF center. That is not going to help my patients. These are about the physiological aspects I have spoken till now. So coming to some few pathological aspects with advanced age. Number one is endometriosis. Endometriosis, the very important treatment for endometriosis is pregnancy. That is why any female young patients who present to us with endometriosis, we ask them to get married soon and become pregnant, because that will decrease her endometriosis and pain and other things. Okay. As age advances, the severity of the endometriosis increases, and she becomes more infertile compared to when she gets married and becomes childbearing at the younger age. And fibroid uterus, as we all know, as age advances, because of the increasing estrogen level, the fibroids develop. So fibroid uterus also can happen with the increasing age. That will decrease the fertility rate for these women. And adenomyosis is also similar to fibroid uterus. And with advancing age, adenomyosis is very common, and this adenomyosis decreases the fertility potential of that woman. Pelvic inflammatory disease with peritoneal adhesions and other things are very common in the advanced age women, because of increased age of marriage. That they become more, the pelvic infections become more common, get treated, and later on they will present with the blocked tubes to us. When you compare a younger patient to an older age group, few studies have been done. There they have diagnosed tubal adhesions and other tubal problems are more common with the advanced age group that affects their fertility. So this is with these things, I would like to thank the chairperson and other resource persons.
Okay, thank you, Deepa. You were worried about how you can balance between the sociological problem issues and how physiological issues are more important. We women are born to balance the things, so no worry. And thank you for walking us through right from the birth till implantation of the ovum. Like how the number comes down at the time of birth, only 80% is coming down, and then with 20% slowly number declines with the age. And then quality, how it suffers because of maybe sensitivity to effect of all mutagens, and also because of all endocrinological changes. And till you took us to implantation of the embryo, how it is difficult in these women, and it makes difficult for infertility subspecialists to make them to make them moms. So, and slowly the pathological problems also sweep in. Thank you very much. You have really taken us from all the physiological to pathological problems in advanced stage group. Now, Madam Sashikala will take us to next step, that once the baby is, mother is conceived, what happens next? What are the effect on her pregnancy, her labor, her baby, fetus, everything? Okay, Madam, over to you.
Yes, madam. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. My sincere apologies. I have made everyone wait for 5 minutes. There is some internet connection problem in our department, I think.
It's okay. We are all are used to these things nowadays.
Ma'am, your slide is visible.
Yes, ma'am. Just a minute, ma'am. Good afternoon to one and all. First, looking through the glass, I could, as an obstetrician, I could see only a pregnant lady at an advanced maternal age. So I would like to say a few words about the advanced maternal age pregnancy. Never ask a woman her age and a man his salary, because a woman hardly lives for herself and a man hardly spends for himself. But this doesn't hold good when it comes to the field of obstetrics, because we know as the maternal age advances, her reproductive performance becomes low. Now, the old terminology of elderly priming has been replaced by the term advanced maternal age. When conception occurs at or beyond the age of 35, you're going to say it is an advanced maternal age pregnancy. The incidence is anything about 10%. There is a gradual increase in the incidence. The causes of delayed marriage and delaying the childbirth. Great emphasis is being now given on women's education, career priorities, divorce followed by remarriage, advanced temporary contraceptive methods, and lastly, the assisted reproductive technology with the ovum donation has attributed to an increase in the incidence of pregnancy at an advanced maternal age. The women have to balance the biological advantages of having a baby early against the economic and the social advantages of establishing a good career. She has to realize the family is not something important to her, but it is everything important to her. Why? It is considered as a high-risk pregnancy. As Deepa has already enumerated, the fertility ratio, it peaks around about 18 to 25 years. There is a sharp decline in the fertility, and by the age of 40, it becomes only 5 to 10%. I like to differ from Dr. Lakshmi Jatia by saying that the correct age of childbearing is not late 20s, it is mid 20s, where the fertility ratio is at its peak. Okay, so at this advanced stage, there is less chances of spontaneous conception, necessitating an assisted reproductive technology. It can be a minor procedure such as an ovulation induction and an IUI, or a major procedure such as an IVF or an ICSI, which have its own impact. Now, the other causes why we consider it as a high risk is, as age advances, the medical disorders such as hypertension and diabetes, they antedate the pregnancy, obesity associated with polycystic ovarian disease, and other gynecological problems such as the fibroid, which will all attribute to an increased risk of maternal and fetal morbidity and mortality. And that is the reason why we say it is a high risk. Now, getting married at an advanced age, usually for a young couple when they come to us, we wait for 1 year after unprotected intercourse to evaluate for infertility. But here we won't wait such long because the time that is left behind is too short. After 6 months of the marital life, when there is no spontaneous conception, we would like to evaluate her for infertility. Definitely, the lady needs a preconceptional counseling. And what are the things which we are going to do in the preconceptional? We would like to estimate her BMI. And if she is towards overweight or obese, we would advise her to shed the extra weight because we know that obesity has got its own problems during pregnancy. And if she has been diagnosed to be a diabetic, not only her present fasting and the postprandial blood sugar must be controlled, but her HbA1c, which reflects her blood sugar at least 8 weeks prior to the date of testing, must be controlled. If the blood sugar levels are erratic, switch over from oral hypoglycemic agents to insulin. Only when the HbA1c is less than 6.5, we will encourage the mother to become pregnant. And if it is a long drawn for 10 years or so, if she has been diabetic, we will like to evaluate the end organ dysfunction such as the retinopathy and nephropathy, which has to be corrected before she conceives. And if she has been found to be hypertensive, and if she is on antihypertensive, switch over to a safe antihypertensive. Some of the antihypertensives are contraindicated during pregnancy, such as the angiotensin receptor blockers and the ACE inhibitors. So we will switch over to a safe antihypertensive. And if she is on statin, we will stop the drug. They will find out the thyroid function. And if she is found to be a hypothyroid, they should treat her and make her a euthyroid. So in the presence of the medical disorders, the pregnancy must be a planned one. And coming to the having conceived, we have to just say pregnancy is a 9 months preparation for a lady to fall in love with her baby for lifetime. Okay, so for the first time when she conceives, during the first trimester, what are all the complications she can have? Yes, she can, the pregnancy, there can be a miscarriage, hyperemesis will be there. The multiple pregnancy, it is either due to a induced conception or as the age advances when the level of estrogen becomes low, there is an increase in the FSH level, which can attribute to an increased incidence of multiple pregnancy. As already mentioned by my previous speakers, screening for Down syndrome and other autosomal trisomy is a must. And it is done round about 11 to 13 weeks, 6 days of gestation. Along with the NT scan, we would like to do the serum double markers and triple markers to find out the highest incidence of a Down syndrome. Definitely, she needs a screening for GDM if she has not been diagnosed to be a diabetic prior to conception. And we like to find out whether she is likely to develop a hypertensive disorder during pregnancy. That is done by doing a gestosis scoring. And if the scoring is less than 3, we will start her on low dose aspirin right from after the first trimester. And a folic acid supplementation is a must. It goes without saying. And the miscarriage rate are found to be more than 30% if the maternal age is more than 40. And the Down syndrome incidence above the age of 35 is 1 in 400, and above the age of 40, it is 1 in 100. So we have to be careful. And the antenatal classes regularly she has to attend. When I was working in Rajaji Hospital, we thought we can conduct the antenatal classes, and we plan to conduct it in every week on Saturdays. We thought these antenatal ladies, they won't come for the class from a different place, and we were surprised to see a large number of antenatal women attending our antenatal classes, and especially the women at an advanced stage, they need a regular classes. We have to sensitize them regarding the diet and the weight gain. We have to advise them to avoid salt-rich food, not an undue restriction of the salt, but the salt-rich food such as the pickles, dry fish, and the puppets must be avoided. She must have a regular antenatal visit and sensitize her about the personal hygiene and the dental hygiene, immunization, and the yoga. And they used to teach them some breathing exercises. She needs a psychological counseling for a strong intention, a relaxed body, and for an open mind. And the second trimester, although she has not been diagnosed to be diabetic prior to conception, there is a high risk of developing a gestational diabetes and hypertensive disorders. And they are found to be three times higher when compared to that of their younger age group. And antepartum hemorrhage, both placenta previa as well as abruptio, they are likely to be twice or thrice higher when compared to that of the younger age group. Definitely, she needs an anomaly targeted scan round about 18 to 20 weeks by an expert sonologist. And in the third trimester, they are more prone to get into a preterm labor because of the malposition and malpresentation. If the glycemic control is not good, the baby is likely to become macrosomic. And if she is a known hypertensive, the baby is likely to be a growth restricted. So pregnancy at an advanced age, they need an antepartum fetal surveillance starting from 34 weeks of gestation in the presence of complications even earlier. Now coming to the labor, the place where a baby gives birth to a mother, it is not the other way around. The deliveries have to be conducted only in a tertiary care center. Definitely, she needs a mental support, a birth companion, and an epidural analgesia. Continuous CTG monitoring, and the labor progress has to be assessed by the partogram. When you are going to assess the pelvis, when you have slightest doubt about the adequacy of the pelvis, there is no doubt you have to take her up for section, no question of trial labor in a woman of an advanced age. They expect the labor to be prolonged because of her anxiety, inertia, as well as the malposition. The instrumental deliveries are found to be twice or thrice higher, and the cesarean deliveries are 4 times higher. We will have a low threshold for doing a cesarean section. If the lady insists for a normal vaginal delivery, a generous mediolateral episiotomy is a must because they expect a rigid perineum. During the third stage, we anticipate a atonic postpartum hemorrhage because of the atonicity of the uterus, and we will like to do an active management of third stage of labor. And these women, they are more prone for thromboembolic manifestation, so thromboprophylaxis is a must in labor. Regarding the postpartum, they are more prone for atonic PPH, failed lactation, and thromboembolic manifestation. Whenever our professor used to go for the rounds in the postnatal ward, she used to say, when the mother is holding the child with pride, our professor used to say, look at that. It appears as if there is only one pretty child in the world and every mother has it. That is the pride with which a lady will hold the child after the delivery. Let me conclude my speech by saying, a woman in India has made the world record as one of the oldest ever to give birth. Mrs. Carr, who is 70 years old, and her husband, Mr. Jujendra Gill, who is 80 years old, after 50 years of marital life, 5 decades of marital life, and with previous 3 IVF failures, now that they have given birth to she has given birth to a male child, and they have named the child as Armen, which means wish in Hindi. So, with the increased use of IVF and ART and ovum donation, pregnancy and delivery, even for a postmenopausal woman, becomes a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. As usual, very clearly you have explained the complications, the problems involved in this advanced stage pregnancy and why it should be considered as high risk, because she risks her, not only her life, but risk of fetus is also equally high. And for the timing of taking advice of gynecologist for conception should be very early, that you insisted upon, and preconceptional advice and treatment and screening procedures all are really very important. You emphasized on those things, and of course gestation scoring is another thing which is very important. And during not only just taking help of these regular antenatal clinics, but classes are also equally important, because she must be worried. So that reduces her anxiety, that reduces her worries, as well as she knows what is she supposed to do during her remaining pregnancy as well as during her labor. So that reduces half of her stress of having a baby. Then at labor, you emphasized on very low threshold for cesarean section, and also anticipations of complications like PPH and all other third stage complications, and thromboembolic phenomena is more common. So you really very nicely explained stage by stage what complications that elderly preemie, or we are used to say elderly preemie. You have to excuse me, but pregnancy with advanced stage will undergo during her pregnancy as well as labor. Now coming to the baby, Tumuja is there. Are
Yeah,
you
ma'am,
ready, Tumuja?
Yeah, ma'am.
Tumuja will talk about neonatal problems in these babies of elderly mothers. Over to you, Tumuja.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon to everybody. So today I'll be talking about the neonatal perspectives in infants born to elderly mothers. So nowadays, women increasingly delay pregnancy and childbirth into the later decades of life because of different reasons. All the reasons has been discussed already by the previous speakers. So advanced maternal age has been recorded as adverse fetal and neonatal outcome in pregnancy. And it has also been observed to be linked with preeclampsia, gestational diabetes mellitus, obesity, preterm delivery, multiple gestation, and intrauterine fetal death. There were no proper studies conducted till date to tell the association between elderly mother and neonatal outcome. Very few studies are done that can explain our doubts to some extent today. So what are the problems in newborn, in infants born to advanced maternal age? So there can be problems in the gestational age, weight of the baby, and any problems in central nervous system, cardiovascular, respiratory, any metabolic disorders, hematological problems, chromosomal abnormalities, and others. So what are the problems of my advanced maternal age? Will happen in a newborn with gestational age and weight of the baby. They can deliver a preterm baby. Preterm is less than 37 weeks of gestation, or a small for gestational age, where it is a birth weight is less than 10th percentile, or large for gestational age, where the birth weight is more than 90th percentile. Fetal macrosomia, birth weight is more than 4 kgs. So there are studies to say about these outcomes. So there is one such study done by Pratibha et al., where she compared the neonatal outcome of pregnancy in a young woman less than 35 years of old and an older elderly mother who is more than 35 years of old. In this study, we can see that in the study group, low birth weight babies are more common than the younger mothers, and which is also significant. And another study which is done by Malavika et al., where she has compared the same younger mother and elderly mother, where in her study we can see preterm babies, low birth weight babies, and small for gestational babies are higher than the younger mothers. than the higher in the elderly mothers than the younger mothers. Central nervous system problems and neural tube defects and perinatal asphyxia. There is one study done by Simperpal K et al. Where he has found that encephalocele, holoprosencephaly, like they're all neural tube defects, are common, are slightly higher in elderly mothers than the younger mothers. But in this study, say it is insignificant. Whereas other study done by Neeraja Singhal et al., he has talked about perinatal asphyxia, where perinatal asphyxia is more common in elderly mothers than the younger mothers, and which is also significant. The cardiovascular problems faced in advanced maternal age are in new infants: ventricular septal defect, transposition of great arteries, aortic stenosis, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. These cardiac defects are mainly because of if the mother is having a risk factor of gestational diabetes mellitus. If an infant is having patent ductus arteriosus, it is more common if a mother is having a preterm delivery. So in this study, Simperpal K et al., he says that ventricular septal defect and atrial septal defect are more common, and they are at risk of 1 to 4% or are higher risk. Elderly mothers are higher risk than the younger mothers. Other problems are respiratory problems, respiratory distress syndrome and apnea. It is mainly due to prematurity. Transient tachypnea of newborn, which is mainly due to cesarean section. And other metabolic disorders are like hypoglycemia and hypocalcemia. This may be due to preterm delivery, or hypoglycemia, which is mainly due to infant of diabetic mother. Hematological problems are anemia, polycythemia, and hyperbilirubinemia. This is also more common in preterm babies. So in a study done by Malavika et al., she says that NICU admissions are more common in 35 years of age group than the more than 35 years of age group than the younger mothers. In her study, she says that what is the most common NICU admission they had is like sepsis, jaundice, respiratory distress syndrome, hypoglycemia, convulsions, and neonatal death, which is higher in elderly mother than the younger mothers. As ma'am told, chromosomal abnormalities are more common. So what is the most common chromosomal abnormality we all know is Down syndrome, that is trisomy 21. The other chromosomal abnormalities are trisomy 18, Edwards syndrome, trisomy 13, Patau syndrome, triple X syndrome, double XY syndrome, which is also called as Klinefelter syndrome. So even there are many other studies says about the chromosomal abnormalities. There is one study done by Youngju Kim et al. He says that the chromosomal abnormalities are more common above age of 35 years. And what are the most involved trisomies are? It is trisomy 21 and 18. He says that there is a close correlation between trisomy 21 and 18. But in this study, he says trisomy 21 is significant than the other chromosomal abnormalities. And other fetal aneuploidies are, they are at elderly mothers are at risk of 1.16% of newborns. And this is another study done by M. Colicet et al. He has told about the percentage of infants born in Down syndrome, where the maternal age increases. We can say the maternal age increases and the percentage of infants with Down syndrome also increases. So in this study, Down syndrome is more common. And other problems are craniofacial deformities like cleft lip, cleft palate, Vactor anomaly, vertebral anomaly. Vactor is nothing but vertebral anomaly, anal atresia, cardiac anomalies, tracheoesophageal fistula, and renal agenesis, and stillbirth and neonatal death. There is a study done by Walid Hamid Al-Abuli et al. He says he has taken a study comparing elderly mother and a young mother and taken the birth defects. So what was the most common birth defects in his study was like craniofacial defects, neural tube defects, cardiac defects, and abdominal masses were the most common. External genitalia problems were the most common in elderly mothers than the younger mothers. Same thing on the right side, we can see they have taken only more than 45 years and less than 20 years. In between, we didn't have a correct data, even though in this more than 45 years, birth defects are more than the younger mothers. And one more study done by Simperpal K et al. He has told that esophageal atresia, hypospadiasis, and gastrochisis are more common in elderly mothers than young mothers, and it is also significant. And another study done by M. Colicet et al. He has told each and every system is involved. The most common involved systems are mostly the chromosomal abnormalities, digestive system, and genital organs are most commonly involved. He says that is this significant in elderly mothers than the younger mothers, but he didn't particularly say what is the problem a child will have in these systems. And the one graph on the right side says the about the perinatal, about the stillbirths and neonatal deaths. As the age increases, we can see the stillbirths and neonatal death rate is increased, maybe due to the complications of the newborn. And another study done by Pratibha et al., she says about the perinatal outcome. In her study also, control group is younger mothers and the study group is the elderly mothers, where it shows elderly neonatal deaths are more common in the elderly mothers. And other studies we have to know is the Shirish Salunki et al. They say that he says that maternal age should be combined with other maternal characteristics and obstetrics history when calculating an individualized adjusted risk factors for adverse pregnancy. So if there is a risk factor for advanced maternal age, then only a child, newborn will have a problem. Unless then there is no relationship with the elderly mothers. So these are the common problems he saw in the study: low birth weight, macrosomia, NICU observations, NICU admissions, neonatal mortality, but it was not a slightly increase was there in elderly mothers than the younger mothers, but it was not significant. And one more person did a study on singleton gestation and a multiple gestation. Same complications both of them had, but only one thing here is the length of hospitalization in NICU was more in multiple gestation and which was significant than the singleton gestation. And other study, there are 3 studies in this. What they say is there is no significant difference in newborn health problems or complications in young and elderly mothers, including Apgar scores, anthropometric measurements of newborns, small for gestational age, low birth weight or preterm birth, and NICU admission. So they say there is no significant difference. So everything is equal. And this is the same study done by Mary Bloomberg. He also says there is no significant difference between the elderly mothers and the young mothers, where they have seen from 17 years to 40 years of age group, which is insignificant. To conclude the session, as advanced maternal age is adverse associated with obstetric complications, women must be counseled to ensure healthy maternal and fetal outcomes. As advanced maternal age women predisposes to adverse pregnancy outcomes, the findings of the study would facilitate preconceptional antenatal counseling and management. Periodic antenatal follow-up visits facilitate early decision making in case of diagnosis of major fetal abnormalities. So there are many inconclusive studies regarding outcome of newborn born to elderly mothers. So we may need more studies and deeper research is needed to establish the impact on newborns born to elderly mother. Thank you.
Thank you, Tungja. You nicely explained about problems in newborn, especially either the baby will be small or it will be large for gestational age. And because of that, and I agree with you, I also went through quite a few studies where they say that NICU admission is not very significantly different from those in young mothers. So maybe this, all NICU admissions may be because of complications of maternal high risk factors like hypertension, diabetes, and all those problems. And definitely congenital cardiac conditions are more common because maybe there are chromosomal anomalies. And Down syndrome, of course, we always advise our patients to undergo screening if our age is more than 35 years. So with all this, we are coming to the end of the session. And I'm sure all our participants, they have very clear picture of problems in advanced maternal age pregnancies. Any questions? Any questions? I always advise to my postgraduates or to my students that See, your obstetric career is one thing, and your career is academic career is another thing. So you have to compartmentalize. You should not allow one to encroach on another area. So your academic career, you just give little rest for that, but be pregnant before you are 25. I always advise my postgraduates like that. So always it's better to have pregnancies before 25 years so that we should not face these problems unnecessarily. So any questions from participants?
Ma'am, I have a question to Dr. Tumja. Madam, you have mentioned about few articles like Neeraja et al. Comparing the perinatal asphyxia in the patients with advanced age and a younger age group. Actually, whether the study was only related to advanced age without any complications. Did you get any study like without any complications like uteroplasmal insufficiency or anything with the mother? Only perinatal asphyxia, which is cause is not known. Did you get any study like that? Because we had a patient like that around 38 years old. We didn't have any obstetric complication throughout her pregnancy, and during delivery was uneventful, but the baby went for asphyxia. I wanted to know because you have presented three studies.
Most of the studies which I saw, no ma'am, it's mainly be dependent of the obstetric complications only, like GDM, PIH, or if it is a preterm delivery, or if it is obstructed labor. Because of that only the child had perinatal asphyxia or the neonatal death. Otherwise, in a normal elderly mother, there is no study suggests the child is having perinatal asphyxia, ma'am.
Okay, Dr. Tumja, thank you. Maybe that case was exceptional, like among the cases which is not a significant also. We didn't face a similar problem in other patients who conceived after infertility with advanced age. That was the only single patient we had. The baby was asphyxiated. The Apgar was it. The delivery was uneventful. But thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
There is one article, something I was reading. It was a geriatric pregnancy. I don't remember now where I read that, but they have got that particular specialty clinic for the geriatric pregnancy. I think so. I read long back, so just now I remembered that. So we can just visit that. So should we stop here, or there are any other questions from other participants?
There are not much queries in the chat box, ma'am.
Yeah, chat box is also now empty.
We
So
have
should we stop here?
We have a pediatrics HOD here. Sir wants to tell something.
Sir, you want to say anything? Raghupati sir, you want to say anything? So let me thank all our speakers for enlightening us on this particular aspect of obstetric problem as well as social problem of advanced age pregnancy. So thank you very much.
We'll close the session with the vote of thanks by the scientific.
Thanks. That's what I wanted.
On behalf of Scientific Society, I thank our beloved Dean, Dr. P.F. Kotu sir, for his motivation to have regular scientific meetings. I thank our Dynamic Dean Health Professions Education, Dr. V.N. Mahalakshmi, for her guidance and support. I thank Dr. Pushpa Kotu, Professor OG, and President Women Empowerment Cell AVMC for being chairperson. Took the burden of chairing the session alone because Dr. Vishnu Bhatt sir couldn't turn up because he has some meeting with the university officials. Thank you, ma'am, and you were able to balance the different people's perspective and nice comments you gave. Thank you. I thank our resource persons, Dr. Lakshmi Jatia, Secretary Women Empowerment Cell, Dr. Shashikala, HOD Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Dr. Tumja, Professor Department of Pediatrics, who have taken so much of efforts in addressing this controversial topic. Because first, when we thought about this topic, myself and Mahalakshmi madam, we were thinking how to go ahead with this, because this is bit difficult. So I took a very simple topic of physiological aspect. The difficult part we gave to Lakshmi Jatia madam and HOD obstetrics, Dr. Sashikala and Dr. Tumja pediatrics, and Vishnu Bhatt sir was also interested to join this session. Actually, he also put forth the neonatal aspect. He only put forth the neonatal aspect to be a perspective to be done. So in addressing such a controversial topic, I thank all our resource persons, and they have accomplished this part with a great dedication. They have taken so much of efforts and they have presented. And I thank all the HODs, faculties, postgraduates who have participated in this session. I thank one and all. Now we are back to new normal of COVID after second wave. Hope so. All will be to start collecting your case reports. Get ready with all your research papers. We'll have it in the next month with the case reports and research papers. The call for abstracts will be having in the first week of next month, August. Thank you one and all to everyone for participating in this session and making it a grand success. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
It
you.
was a thank
So
you.
all speakers have made justice to this topic. I really congratulate all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Should we close?